All right, welcome everybody to the Creative Archepreneur panel. We have an amazing group today, and I'm excited to introduce them to you. So today we have Isa. Isa is a type and graphic designer, Laurel, who is a copywriter, and Khulan, UX designer. So I'm going to have all of you introduce yourselves. And when you introduce yourself, answer the question, what does entrepreneur mean to you? We're going to kick it off with Khulan.
Hey everyone, I'm Khulan. I am a UX designer at Core Digital Media, and I'm hoping to soon get back into the creative freelancing space. So being an entrepreneur for me provides me the freedom and flexibility to really explore new projects that I don't really have the ability to explore when I'm at work. So I'm able to craft new projects and ideas while also being able to meet amazing people. And it allows me to have my creativity flourish, because creativity can only come when you're really collaborating with others and having ideas bounce off of each other. So that's what being an entrepreneur means to me.
Thanks, Khulan. Passing the mic to Laurel. What does Archepreneur mean to you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Laurel Carpenter, co-founder of Pearl Consulting NYC, and we help our clients to find the gem in their stories. We work with a lot of service-based businesses. We do branding, copywriting, content marketing, and all that kind of stuff. I believe that when you're an entrepreneur, you've got choices and artistic freedom. You can choose who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. You get the privilege of finding the right clients who can really benefit from what you have to offer. And I personally love helping people who aren't a good mutual fit for our business to find the right resources for their needs. And when you're an entrepreneur and you have a community like the Co, you've got a group of creative people you can trust to help your clients find the right resources for their needs. And that makes life so much easier for everyone.
Thank you. And passing the mic to Isa. What does Archepreneur mean to you?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Khulan and Laurel, especially. I think we haven't met yet. So it's really nice being here with you. To me, I think I agree with you both. It's got some freedom to it and some choice, because it kind of comes together. You can choose which projects and clients you want to work with, and each project you actually choose, you give a little bit of yourself. You know, it's the client's project, but it's your project too. That's the part of Archepreneur you must have. You enjoy working with it, and once you're done with it, it's part of your portfolio, and it's part of what you've done, not only for them but for you yourself. I actually rejoice in creating something beautiful for my clients. I think that's one of the loveliest part of it, besides the freedom and the possibility to work with various projects that actually involve me or touch me on some personal level.
Thank you, Isa. So excited I hear what you all have to say today. Thank you for being here with us. So we're going to start off the panelist questions with, how did each of you get started, and what were your biggest milestones up until now? Passing the mic back to Isa.
Hi. Well, I actually decided quite early. I wanted to be a freelancer at least. During my last years of college, I worked at some design studios, but once I finished, I started focusing on my own business. I felt I really liked the idea of having the freedom and choices we mentioned before. And I think that my biggest milestone is still one of my first ones, when I decided to actually drop off my full-time or part-time jobs and take that leap of faith, you know. I don't think I've ever done something as risky before or after in my life. So that was like a great breakthrough, or a threshold, something like that. And I'm really happy I did it. After that, I had bigger clients, bigger projects. I've been working with teams. I like meeting the co and everything, but everything was a little bit more, I don't know, it wasn't so risky, you know. That step was a really adrenaline and fearful kind of thing going on besides the greatness, you know.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The risk is always there, but it's worth the reward. So I'm glad that you pushed through and we're okay with the risk. I'm going to pass the mic over to Laurel. So how did you get started and what were your biggest milestones up until now?
Well, first of all, Isa, it's really nice to meet you. And I loved hearing your story because mine is really different from yours. Whereas you wanted to be a freelancer early on, I was a nonprofit executive in 2017. I have a master's degree in social work, and I was not particularly happy in my job. I was in a director of learning and development type of role, and I loved the work, but I always wanted to be I was always ambitious, and I always was the entrepreneur in my company. And I took some time off to try to figure out what I wanted to do. And this one cold February night, I got together for drinks with a friend of mine who was an entrepreneur that owned a managed service provider company. And he said, you know, you and Charles should go into business together, because my partner, Charles, in our business is a former journalist for the New York Times. And he'd been working on a science fiction novel, and he'd gotten laid off a couple of times, which happens to people in that industry pretty frequently. And he said, you can be the extrovert who talks to the people, and Charles can be the introvert who does writing and website development. And so our first milestone was that first client. It kind of happened by accident. And from there, I'd say our second milestone was that, unfortunately, he sold his company to someone else who didn't really believe in marketing and decided to kind of do his own thing. So we joined a BNI group, and that was our second milestone, was narrowing down the message. And one thing I really liked about being in a networking group is that we got to really refine our message. Then the pandemic happened, and we had we do blogs for people, and we lost a whole bunch of our blogging clients. It was pretty stressful, actually, but we pivoted and decided to do LinkedIn and resumes. A lot of folks got laid off, and I'm a Gen Xer. My partner is like on that borderline of baby boom and Gen X. And we had a lot of people who are our age who had like 4-page resumes and got laid off during COVID, and we helped them to make it more succinct. And then our final milestone is we finally developed some packages. We added a branding offering. We niched down our clients to HR folks and attorneys, and we work with other folks too, but that's like an ideal niche for us. And so now that's where we're at. We have packages. We're really clear that we're a writing agency. We're not trying to be all things to all people. And I think that that's like a great milestone, a great place to be. It's been quite a ride.
Congratulations, Laurel. I'm so glad that you found that niche and found something that you could really run with. That's such a good story. Appreciate you sharing. I'm going to pass the mic over to Khulan. How did you get started, and what were your biggest milestones up until now?
So my interest in UX designs was sparked when I was actually in university. I went to university with different ambitions and came out with UX design. So it happened when I was a student intern at UCSD. And initially my job was just to create like flyers and compile data and do some like other small office tasks. And a few months into my internship, actually, my manager introduced me to a project that the team had been wanting to get started on, but everyone was so busy in their own tasks that it kind of was a little bit on the back burner. So my amazing manager at the time, Ginger, noticed my interest in the project itself and redesigning the website, that she offered it to allow me to take a lead or a role in helping with managing the designs and creating the designs. So that's where I basically got my start, and it eventually led me into General Assembly in Creative Co, and now my current job at Core Digital Media. So my biggest milestones up until now were working within Creative Co. I think that was the first time I had my real UX job, and it was a lot of like support, like Drea, you, and Yeli, and even the amazing team of UX designers, Chris, Sydney, and Carol were all super supportive, like working together, collaborating, which made it such a really nice experience for my first time, especially because I hear so many stories about freelancing being scary and nerve-wracking, but everyone made it so seamless, so smooth, and so supportive. And my other milestone that I'm really thankful for this year was being able to get my first full-time job as a UX designer at Core Digital Media. And that company has also been super instrumental in letting me take a lead and take a role on designing.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm so happy we were a part of that milestone for you. That's so nice of you to say that. Really brings a smile to my face. I'm excited for this next question. So, how do you ensure your clients get the maximum value out of your expertise? Passing the mic to Laurel.
So my answer to this is twofold: personalization and expectation setting. That's very clear. So even in this era of email and text-based communication, I always insist on getting on at least a 15 to 20-minute call with our prospects, especially for larger jobs, because we're a custom service and we really want to get a feeling for what working with that client is like. And we want them to get a feeling for what it's like to work for us. And we prefer to have some personal engagement over the phone or Zoom and not just do everything online. And when I talk with those prospects, I ask them questions that are really designed to uncover for a good mutual fit. I'm happy to send writing samples and send content we've created as a resource that speaks to any of the challenges they face. And I want them to get some value out of that initial contact. So if we decide to move forward, where the expectation setting comes in is that I have very clear contracts. I have contracts with every client. And I think it really helps because it outlines very clearly what we're going to do for them, when we're going to do, and when we're going to do it, and what our expectations are of them as well. We put a container around our process, usually a time container. So that way we can make sure everything is really clear. And even though I set boundaries on time, I never nickel and dime our clients. If someone wants an extra 15, 20 minutes of my time to get clarity on something we wrote, that's not a problem for us. And it avoids a lot of misunderstandings and an endless email back and forth. We're always available for questions. We build that into our pricing and we answer really promptly. And we also always partner and collaborate with any other people on the marketing team, like web designers, graphic designers, SEO specialists, UX people. So everyone gets the most out of our work together. It all serves the client if we collaborate.
Love that you always have the client in mind and what's best for them. That's so great. They definitely get that maximum value when you have that perspective. So passing the mic to Khulan, I'd love to hear how you ensure your clients get the maximum value out of your expertise.
So I probably don't have as much hands-on experience as like the rest of the panelists, Isa and Laurel, but here's a little bit of my opinion about that. So for me, I believe it's important to first have the client kind of understand like what I do as my job, just set expectations as to I'm a UX designer and how it differs from other design disciplines. So like as a UX designer, I'm focused on crafting meaningful experiences, which means that I'm more focused on the holistic experience for the user. So instead of, let's say, like a graphic designer who is focused on like the aesthetics, the beauty, like how it looks, I'm more focused on not making like beautiful graphics or art, but in more making like functional, enjoyable products that makes it easier for the user to complete the tasks that they need to do. And as all good products get built, I always try to make it clear that it takes time. So clients kind of have to be aware that like my designs just don't happen overnight. Like I can't just at a snap of a finger give you a design out of nowhere. Like there's a methodical process, methodical research, and iterative design that takes place. And I don't make my projects last 6 weeks because I want it to last 6 weeks for the sake of that. But it's because there's a process and I don't want to skimp out on that, especially when I want to give them a good product that they are happy with the end result. And in addition to like setting those proper expectations with my clients, I also strongly believe that, like Laurel said, was good communication. So I think it's vital at all stages throughout every single process. And without strong communication, it's possible for the client to end up with a product they're unhappy with, or we end up diverging from the initial point of contract where we discussed this process and then we went somewhere else. So by communicating with like the client, listening to their needs and expectations, while also establishing the expectations as my role as a UX designer throughout the project, I believe that's how clients can obtain the maximum value out of my expertise.
Thank you for sharing that. Your answer truly shines. You have all of the expertise you need to give maximum value. You definitely have, that's something special. So thank you so much for sharing. And I'm going to pass the mic to Isa to hear how you ensure your client gets the maximum value out of your expertise.
Well, I first like to say I totally agree with Laurel about teaming up. I mean, I am good at certain things and I don't know a lot of them. So one of the things I do is to actually acknowledge or I don't know, my professional limitations and work together with people who will do the best job in their areas and with their specific knowledge. And I also agree with Khulan when she says that communication is super important, and to actually get the scope clear so no one gets, I don't know, disappointed at any point. I would like to also add that being a freelancer and an entrepreneur, I really don't know how to pronounce the word really well. I actually feel that I am part in a much more intimate level of each project, and I actually give a little bit of myself to each one of them. I mean, I try to work with beautiful and functional designs, but there's also this tiny bit of personal thing going on, which actually pushes me a little bit forward when I work for a client. I think that's like something extra. I can't really grasp my hands around it, but there's something personal going on besides all the professional and the knowledge and everything that's much more concrete and tangible in a way. So I think it's like a mix of both. I mean, good communication, knowing where are my strong skills and where I need help or collaboration from other creative and or professionals, and also like a personal involvement in each project that makes me actually do the best for them, but for myself too in a certain way. I think that's actually how I do it.
Thank you, Isa. I appreciate that so much. And we're on to the next expert question portion of this panelist. So excited to feature all of you as the expert I know you are. So we're going to begin with Laurel, and your expert question is, what are copywriting guidelines and why does every business need it?
So copywriting guidelines are a written document that establishes a clear set of standards for your messaging. So let's say you're a small business or a solopreneur and you want to outsource your social media posts to a VA or a social media manager, and you don't have a lot of time to train that person, but you want to make sure that they understand how to write the posts in your brand voice. So copywriting guidelines can help everyone be on the same page. And that could go beyond a VA or a social media manager to a blogger, other members of the marketing team, podcasters even. It includes content pillars, tone, do's and don'ts, specific examples of social media posts. It could even include hashtags and grammar usage rules. It helps everyone be consistent and clear and on the same page. And when I had mentioned this before to someone in the marketing world, they were like, well, that's just copywriting guidelines are just about grammar. And I said, no, actually, like you can really flesh those out in great detail and give specific language usage examples, do's and don'ts, ties into branding very well. And so if you ever want to see a great example of a company that's created copywriting guidelines, check out MailChimp. They've created extensive copywriting guidelines that are available to the public. And that's really well fleshed out. It can be done on a smaller scale. And in fact, we did one with the for the Spice with social media post examples and pillars and all of that stuff. So that is why every small business or solopreneur could, and large companies too, could use it.
Thank you. Yes, it's so practical. And I love that you can enable your entire team to all be on the same page. I think that has a profound effect on an overall business awareness, that every single employee knows the tone, the vocabulary when you write about anything that has to do with the business. And that has, I think, value across the board. So I just love how adaptable it is. Thank you for that service offering. And next is Khulan. So Khulan, as the UX design expert, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about what is user experience, which is UX, and why does user experience UX design matter?
So To break it up, user experience is essentially the interaction that takes place between a person known as the user and the product or service that a business is offering. So anytime you navigate an application or a website like TikTok, or you try on a running shoe at the store or at the mall, that is called a user experience. So a good user experience will leave you feeling happy, accomplished, and fulfilled, whereas a bad user experience can leave you feeling very confused and frustrated. So to help solidify this concept a little more is think about a time you recently used a product or went to the store to buy a shirt or something. So, or you went to, or you went to an online website or an application. Did you accomplish what you wanted to do when you went there? And for those that went to a website, how easy was it to navigate that application? Or for those that went to the store, how was that service that you got at the store? How was it to look through all the shoes or all the shirts to find that one shirt you were looking for? So for that, the overall process of completing your task, how did that make you feel? So all these aspects of interaction that happens between the user and the service or the product is what user experience refers to. So me as a UX designer, I generally aim to make these interactions enjoyable, intuitive, and easy for people. So UX design is very important because it provides a voice for the user and the business. And to add to that, it helps improve the product and fulfills the user's needs. As a business, you want to be focused on fulfilling that user's needs because you need to show that you have a purpose to the user, in which this purpose can help build trust, especially if you accomplish their task, between the user and the business, which can lead to eventual long-term customer loyalty, as well as a happy user and happy business. So that's a little bit of short as to why UX design matters.
Thanks, Khulan. I love that you gave us a customer journey experience along with what UX is. I could imagine going through that and having a great experience or not so great experience and why that truly matters. So thank you for sharing. Next for our expert question is Isa. Isa, I can't wait to hear what you have to say since we know how much you love all of this. So is typography graphic design, and why is it important to use good typography?
Hi. Well, yeah, of course, typography is graphic design. I don't believe you can actually have graphic design without type. I mean, 95% of graphics actually have words on it. So you tell me how you do graphic design without type, because I honestly don't know. There's this writer, this typographer who actually writes a lot of theory. I think it was Robert Berngerst who said that good typography actually helps people focus on the message and don't have to worry so much about the internal process we need for reading. Actually saying it in easier ways, you can actually read it without having to bother yourself in understanding or deciphering the glyphs. There's also a more branding kind of approach. The quote I have behind me, that's Paula Scherz. She's a brand designer, not a type designer, but actually also involves a lot of my work too, because type says without saying. You have the words, but also you have the style and the aesthetics, and many times you have some sort of wink to an era or an epoch or a style or another universe besides the words. One of the projects we did with Yeli was so vintagely, and actually that's what we looked for, the typeset so vintagely, and we actually looked for a specific era we wanted to replicate or to acknowledge in it. That's kind of what typography does. It says beyond the words. That is in a kind of a branding aspect. That's the one I work the most, but in editorial, that's also one of our areas. Or even at, I don't know, social media design, you want people to have a clear message and you want them to be able to read it and to read it fast, and comfortably. So So that's I think that's my answer. Sorry, Sarah, let me read your message. I can do both. Yeah, that's absolutely right. It sets a feeling. It's part of the guidelines, and we can't oversee it.
Thank you, Isa. That was so well said. And I love the way that you stated about what typography is and all of the benefits. One of the things that I would love to highlight is how well all of you work together while collaborating. And that definitely is something that I hold dear to my heart because of the way In Creative Company is. So I do have a hot seat question for all of you. And that is, what are your tips for being the best collaborator while on a team? It's a hot seat question, so you could just go as you feel called to.
Okay, I'd like to say I like listening and hearing what other people have to say. I mean, I don't own the truth, and especially there's a lot of things I don't know about a lot of areas. For instance, I love the approach UX designers have to design, you know, how they base their decisions on experience and on polls and on a lot of previously collected data. We work together. We're actually, at least to me, they're like some sort of close cousins to graphic designers in a way. But there's a lot we can learn from them. Hopefully they can learn from us too. Either from close related collaborators or professionals to people who are a little more far away, like copywriting, which is something that's totally complementary to graphic design. But I don't know nothing about copywriting. I mean, writing is not my thing at all. So there's always something you can learn, and there's of course the simple fact that another set of eyes with another mind is always something new and can give you a new way, a new to approach the issue, the problem you're actually trying to solve.
So I would love to answer this question. I think that being good at giving feedback is a huge part of collaboration. And I actually feel like this is something I could probably continue to work on myself, but finding like a constructive way to offer feedback. And of course, being open to feedback is really important as well. And that can be challenging because, you know, we all want clients to be happy, but we did have an experience when we worked on Spice where the client had some feedback for the copy. He didn't feel that it was exactly what he wanted. And the way that Treya expressed it to us made it really easy for us to make adjustments. And it was a success in the end because of the way that Treya gave feedback. And you have to be clear and I think kind. Some people would disagree with me about that, but I'm a big fan of being kind, clear, and constructive in giving and receiving feedback as well. But if you are collaborating with other people on a team, you have to see them, you have to respect their expertise and their opinions and communicate clearly, which I think Khulan got to earlier in the chat. So that's the most important thing, is openness to feedback and being able to give feedback that can be heard.
Thank you both. Khulan, do you have any collaboration tips for any of our collaborators near and far?
I think what Isa and Laurel are, what they said truly resonates with me. I think it's a lot of open communication, being respectful of other people's expertise and their experience, because when you're co-collaborating, you're not the end all be all. You don't know everything. And like, whatever other fellow designers or other fellow creatives have to say, like, you have to be open to listening to that because it is their field of expertise. And I think there's also like in that mishmash of things, it's also like open feedback, open critiques, not criticism. Like, I think there's a very clear definitive line between those two, just giving constructive critiques, being open-minded, and being willing to take feedback yourself. I think a lot of what they said definitely is what I would do. And I don't I'm not sure if I would add anything else to it because they perfectly explained it both.
Thank you. And of course, how to give good critique that is constructive and clear and concise. I would love to hear about, what that actually entails as a creative, because that is those nuances that's really learned from experience only.
Oh, so if I may hop onto that so how I give critiques, constructive critiques, is something I learned from my time at General Assembly, which is called a critique sandwich. So you start off with something nice to say, like something you enjoyed while you were like seeing someone present something. And then you will add your little critique in there. Like it's not, you don't have to have like emotions attached to it, just more of like what you just saw, like. And then at the end of that critique, you will add like something good again. So like kind of like a sandwich in a way. Like you have something good, then your critique, and then something good again. So it's much more easier for some people to digest your critiques, just because some people are very open to critiques, and it's good. You have open communication with them. However, sometimes people are not so open to critiques. So you want to be well aware of that. So I think always approaching people with your critique sandwich, especially when you don't know them, is a very good way to initially like introduce those critiques to them as you go on. And obviously, as your relationship builds, you understand the person, how you provide critiques and how you can communicate with them. But in that initial phase, I think using a critique sandwich is quite nice.
I wanted to add a little story onto that, if I may, really briefly. I love the critique sandwich. I'm going to try that. We had an experience where we were hired to help someone with her name of her business and her brand, and she'd already hired a web designer, and the web designer did not want to talk to us. And in fact, she also had very specific ideas about the copywriting. And it was a shame because the client suffered because of this. She said, if I had known, I wouldn't have necessarily hired that person, because she had a very rigid process where it was all online and there was no opportunity to collaborate. And I really try very hard to work with people that want to collaborate for that reason after that experience. And I understand she has her process, but I think that things like the critique sandwich and any other feedback techniques that we can come up with are really great when we're working collaboratively. It only benefits the client when we can listen to and employ those kind of feedback tactics.
I love that. Thank you. Isa, before we wrap up, do you have anything to add?
Not really, but I have never heard the critic sandwich, but I did learn that kind of method or structure from Ozzy. So when you said it was like, okay, I think she got it from somewhere. I actually use it a lot, and it's much better to receive it that way, because the other person or yourself, when you're getting the feedback, I mean, at least to me, when you have a negative feedback, it's harsh, or it's hard to tell if they like something. I mean, when people only focus on the bad things, it's like, okay, is something okay? But when you have like positive feedback too, together with I don't know, some critique or something they had to get better, it's easier to digest. I don't know who of you two said the word, but digest is I think the word.
Thank you. That was so good. I appreciate all of you so much. You're all a joy to collaborate with, which I genuinely appreciate. And all of the panelists here today are collaborators of In Creative Company. In Creative Company is a creative agency community hybrid. And if you really love this panel, we have more to come. So you can join us in May. And in May, we have Ariel, creative director, Sydney, UX designer, and Rochelle, digital marketer. You're welcome back to hear what they have to share with their expertise. And we also have many other events that are for members and for the public. So we have a co-working sprints for members only. Our co-working sprints are a lot of fun, and we get to work together for the day. Next is our sales sprint. Sales sprint is where we make time and accountability for doing our outbound and inbound sales outreach. Next, we have our creative pitch practice. Creative pitch practice is a public event, so everyone and anyone can join. This is where it's an active networking group, so you don't have to come with a pitch. By the end, you'll have one, and we all share ours with each other. And we have an In Creative Good series on our IG Live. Our IG Live is at in.creative.company, and you can see the entire series on that Instagram, as well as our upcoming one in May with Michelle. And we have a member mentoring session. So ask us anything, open door, bring a question and get an answer. That is for members only. And if you're excited about what you heard here today, you can check out more at increative.co. Thank you so much for your time. It was